Omaha Beach was by far the most difficult target on D-Day. German resistance was fierce, and American losses totaled 3,881 men. Although heavy bomber support was provided by the 2nd Bombardment Division, the drop was too far inland to be of help to the men landing on the beaches. The reason for the late drop could be as simple as undue pressure on the lead bombardier by the wing commander not to drop short and hit friendly forces. Of course, this was before the advent of modern-day smart bombs. Nevertheless, I feel the mission design was flawed and critical intelligence information was not provided to the men who carried out the mission. As an example, prior to the invasion, Allied submarines made surface view photos of the invasion beaches. In addition, aerial photos documented all sections of the invasion beaches, including the gun emplacements at Pointe du Hoc. The coordinates of gun emplacements were well established, but these coordinates were never plotted on G-charts used by Air Force navigators. The one thing in common and highly visible in all of these pre-invasion photos was the line of vegetation above the sandy beach. This would be the main line of German resistance to the landings. This line is also well defined in charts of Omaha Beach. In my opinion, this should have been the principal target for these bomber crews. On D-Day, my orders as a Pathfinder navigator leading the 381st Bomb Group called for an attack at right angles to the beach line due north of Bayou on Gold Beach in support of British and Canadian troops. We had practiced this type of attack for 5 days prior to D-Day and had full confidence in our ability to hit the beach line with accuracy. The immediate response I had to our attack on Gold Beach north of Bayou on D-Day was exhilarating. Everything went smoothly, and it appeared we did the job we were sent out to do. However, when we later heard of the severe losses suffered by American troops on Omaha Beach, I was deeply saddened. Although the 2nd Bombardment Division has been criticized for delaying their drop and not hitting the Omaha Beach line, I feel the plan of attack was at fault. I consider it a cheap shot to blame my colleagues and friends in the 2nd Bombardment Division for these losses. The plan of attack was flawed and failed to take full advantage of navigational aids that were available and in common use by the 8th Air Force at that time. As a result of my concern, I have spent much time studying and analyzing our D-Day attack procedures. I have come to the conclusion that the generals in charge of planning the attack lacked full knowledge of the potential of the G navigation equipment and also lacked faith in the capabilities of the young navigators who were using it. In a certain sense, there was a generation gap, much like the same gap we see at the present time. Today, if mother or dad needs someone to fix or program the cell phone or computer, they don't call grandpa. They call on their son, daughter, or grandchild. These youngsters simply absorb new technology. It was the same way with the brand new technology of G navigation in England. If I wanted to learn something about the G-box, I didn't go to the group or squadron commander. I went to a fuzzy-cheeked corporal in the radio shack. It was this young man who got my undivided attention when he told me, You can follow a G line and it will bring you safely home in a pea soup English fog. The young corporal enthusiastically showed me the simple procedures required to tune in to radio stations transmitting pulse signals. Then it was merely a matter of lining up the left leading edges of a live blip with a marker blip and throwing a switch to determine the value of that G line. British cartographers had superimposed these G lines on Mercator projection charts in different colors. The so-called G lines were actually hyperbolic curves representing the time difference in arrival of radio pulses transmitted simultaneously from a master and a slave station. However, at that time I wasn't concerned with the technology of the system. My interest in using the system was to determine my position with remarkable accuracy. I worked closely with my pilot and we soon developed our own emergency procedure to bring us home safely in the event we were caught in the air by bad weather, even a pea soup English fog. Neither corporals or lieutenant navigators planned the D-Day attacks by the 8th Air Force. However, as an ex-Pathfinder navigator who used and greatly appreciated the value of G, I present this plan of attack to show what could have been done to help our troops at Omaha Beach on D-Day. We had the proven technology and men who knew how to use it, but we failed to take full advantage of that technology in a critical battle. On D-Day, my orders called for a bombing altitude of 15,000 feet. I was leading an 18-plane group of B-17 bombers from the 381st Bomb Group, flying in a shallow V formation. Our target was the beach line of Gold Beach, due north of Bayou. If clouds obscured the beach line, we were to use the combination G-H2X radar blind bombing procedure we had practiced for 2 days at Skegness on May 29th and 31st, and on 3 raids to Pas-de-Calais on June 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. To me, bombing through the clouds was the first mistake in our orders. We should have been ordered to get under the cloud layer and bomb visually, even if we had to go to 5,000 feet. Further, a scout aircraft should have been sent in advance to advise oncoming bombers of the height of the cloud layer over the beaches. There is one circumstance associated with the planning that went into heavy bomber air support on D-Day that is quite bothersome. General Eisenhower told his troops not to be concerned about enemy air attacks. In 1944, the German Luftwaffe had fewer than 200 available aircraft in all of France. The Allied air forces had more than 13,000 operational aircraft. As a German soldier described this discrepancy, he said, "If it is white, it's American. If it is black, it's British. If you can't see it, it is the Luftwaffe." Air Force generals had assured Eisenhower that we had achieved control of the skies. However, these same Air Force generals still designed the bomber attack program around relatively large formation used for protection against enemy fighters. The difficulty of getting an accurate bomb strike when planes are spread all over the sky was well understood. Time after time, I inspected strike photos after a 54-plane formation raid to a target in Germany. By opening and closing one eye while looking at the target through a stereo device placed over two photos, you could watch the bombs burst. It was disheartening to see them strike seemingly everywhere except on the prime target. After the war, an irate German woman accurately described this scattergun approach to bombing when she said, "The British picked their targets and dropped their bombs, big bombs, on or near that target. However, the Americans dropped their bombs everywhere, all over the countryside, just like cow manure." She was dramatically specific and correct. For our attack on Gold Beach, we flew a shallow V of V's formation and used the combination GH2X blind bombing procedure. We had practiced this right-angle attack procedure on several occasions and did not delay our release, bombing through the clouds from an altitude of 15,000 feet. Our aiming point was the line of demarcation between land and water, and we hit it. However, the formation was spread almost 1,500 feet wide, and I feared the result was a scattergun approach to pinpoint bombing. We were over the target just a few seconds before we headed back to base. Looking back, it appears basic intelligence concerning targets on the invasion beaches was not properly shared with the Air Force. As may be noted, this submarine photo established coordinates of pillboxes near the beach as 059825. I suppose this applies to some unknown military grid system completely unfamiliar to Air Force navigators. To my way of thinking, this basic intelligence data should have been converted to G-grid system coordinates when such a target was assigned to the Air Force. To illustrate, let us assume that this gun emplacement falls on the purple grid line number 50.44, and the battery is 100 yards south of the sandy beach. With such data in hand, it would be no problem for a navigator to spot the target on his G-chart and draw in the course line for the attack. The navigator could pick up this G-line as much as 75, even 100 miles northwest of the target. By keeping his live blip in alignment with the marker blip, he can determine his wind drift and true course. Further, by taking periodic fixes, he can establish the ground speed of the aircraft, which is essential information for an accurate bomb attack. Of course, the attack should be made by a single bomber or perhaps two bombers flying closely in alignment. Each bombardier would use his Norden bomb sight to make the bomb drop. However, there was no transposition of such coordinates to G-charts for use by the Air Force. Gun battery raids were carried out on 6 days before the invasion. On June 5th, the day before D-Day, I led the 398th Bomb Group, attacking gun batteries north of Cayenne. We were shown aerial photos of the batteries, and the approximate position was marked on our pilotage charts. However, we attacked with a formation of 18 bombers from above 20,000 feet. It was hazy, and target identification was marginal. I never saw the results of this attack, but I strongly suspect it was a classic scattergun drop, and we probably tore up several apple trees and killed a few milk cows in the Normandy countryside. I doubt whether we caused any serious damage to the gun battery. It would have been so much easier and more accurate following a G line to find the target and make the bomb drop. On D-Day, the 3 heavy bomber divisions of the 8th Air Force were assigned definite target areas. The 1st Division, made up of B-17s, flew in support of British and Canadian troops generally east of Bayou. The B-24s of the 2nd Bomb Division were assigned the American sector that included Omaha Beach. However, the 9th Air Force flew their B-26 medium bombers in support of landings on Utah Beach. The 3rd Bomber Division, also consisting of B-17s, was assigned targets scattered throughout the Normandy Peninsula. My plan for a mission flying in support of American landings on Omaha Beach calls for 2 experienced groups flying with the 1st Combat Wing of the 1st Bomber Division. These groups are the 91st Bomb Group stationed at Bassingbourn and the 381st Bomb Group stationed at Ridgewell. My selection is based upon the fact that I served with both the 381st and 91st Bomb Groups as a Pathfinder navigator and was quite familiar with the fine quality and performance history of these organizations. Both groups were able to activate 2 18-plane formations called the A and B groups. This would provide a total of 12 squadrons of 6 planes totaling 72 bombers. Although the 398th Bomb Group, stationed at Nut Hampstead, was part of the 1st Combat Wing, they were activated just 1 month prior to D-Day and lacked combat experience needed for the Omaha mission. However, there was one very important target I would have assigned them to make a conventional Norden bombsight visual attack following a G line into the target. That target was Point du Hoc. The bomb chosen for the attack on D-Day was the 100-pound high-explosive demolition bomb. It was a good choice. It did not create a huge crater that would be a problem for men and mobile equipment. It also provided a shallow foxhole for the troops. In addition, they were effective in clearing landmines and disrupting barbed wire entanglements and lines of communications. The B-17 could carry a load of 36 100-pound bombs. Under this revised plan of attack, I feel that a single exception to the 100-pound high-explosive bomb load should have been ordnance used in attacking the major gun battery at Point du Hoc. Instead of sending a battalion of Rangers to scale the cliffs, I would have neutralized the battery by sending as many as a dozen or more heavy bombers, making individual bomb runs, each aircraft salvoing 36 100-pound oil and rubber fire bombs on the target. The 398th Bomb Group could easily have handled this assignment. The plan of attack would involve individual bombers from the 398th to make their attacks one by one to avoid the scattergun effect of formation bombing. The coordinates of the targets, determined by intelligence from aerial photos, would be plotted on G-charts of the target area and the attack made by following a G-line into the target. As shown in this example, the target is located on G-line 50.57 of the purple grid system of the Pembroke-Paris G-chart. Of course, each navigator would be checked out for proficiency on the G-box and issued a chart for the mission. His orders to make the attack would be as simple as pick up G-line 50.57 on the purple grid system near the northern point of the Isle of Wight. Set your marker blip at 50.57 and follow this G-line south-southeast about 80 miles. It will take you right over your target. Take G-fixes and establish your ground speed for the Bombardier. G-lines are extremely accurate at sea level. Since you will be flying at perhaps 10,000 feet, you might be 50 to 100 feet right or left of the target. As soon as the Bombardier picks up the target visually, he will have only a few minor adjustments to make on the Norden bomb sight before releasing his bomb load. Large gun emplacements usually had a ramp to load shells and equipment. With the fiery juice running down the ramp, I feel certain the gun crew would have been very busy fighting fire with little time to fight the invaders. Further, near misses would create a huge cloud of black smoke, and the gunners would have had trouble seeing their targets. Ironically, the American Rangers found telephone poles instead of guns in the battery they worked so hard to take at a fearsome price. My feelings are that Point du Hoc should have been a huge pillar of smoke and fire by 07:15 hours on D-Day. Formation assembly would be carried out in the area normally used by the 1st Combat Wing. As may be seen, this assembly was usually carried out in East Anglia between Bassingbourn and the town of Debden. 4 groups of 18 planes from the 91st and 381st Bomb Groups would be assembled in this area. The flight plan calls for arrival over Omaha Beach at 0700 hours, 25 minutes prior to the first scheduled landings. Essentially, I would follow the same course after leaving Beachy Head that I followed on D-Day. As soon as the first of these 4 groups flying in line leaves Beachy Heads and strikes southwest toward the target area, they shall change formation to 3 squadrons flying in line. The weather plane has radioed back that the bombing altitude is clear at 10,000 feet, and the descent through the clouds to reach that altitude would be made while crossing the channel on the way to the Omaha Beach target area. By the time they reach the coastline of Normandy, the 12 squadrons should be spaced in a long line roughly 1/2 mile apart. The rear formations may avoid prop wash by flying at a slightly lower altitude. However, as soon as they reached the coast north of Bayou, a right turn would be made to attack the vegetation green line above the sands of Omaha Beach. There was no pinpoint target assigned to the Air Force on Omaha Beach. Of course, there were big guns well protected by concrete, but these were targets for the cruisers and the battleships. To an air crew, the beach line was visible, as may be seen in this somewhat out-of-focus NASA photo of Omaha Beach. The line of demarcation between sand and vegetation is clear. Lead squadron pilots could easily follow it by eyeball, and the Bombardier could also establish the course line with the Norden bomb sight. It is obvious the German defenders would not set up their defensive positions on the open sandy beaches. Their foxholes, riflemen, and machine gunners would be hidden in the line of vegetation just above the sandy beach line. This line of vegetation would be the target for the aerial attack force. The attack would be made not at right angles to the line of vegetation, but in line with the vegetation and sandy beach line by small squadrons of bombers. A tight V of 6 B-17 bombers and 2 elements of 3 planes will place a string of 216 100-pound bombs in a strip approximately 300 feet wide. The B-17 usually flew about 180 miles per hour, or 88 yards per second. Using a 10-second delay, the 216 bombs would be spread along a path 880 yards long, or 2,640 feet, and 300 feet wide, with a concentration of 11.9 bomb strikes per acre. By properly spacing the bomb patterns of 12 squadrons, the 6 miles of German defenses on Omaha Beach could be well covered. Bomb strike concentrations would be about the same as dropping 12 100-pound bombs on a football field. One basic problem involves spotting the bomb release points so that the 12 squadrons of 6 planes each can spread their bomb load along a 6-mile path 300 feet wide in the vegetation just above the sand at Omaha Beach without overlapping. To accomplish this, we turn to the wonderful G-box, and the navigator will take over the job of determining the bomb release point from the bombardier. The navigator will use the Pembroke-Paris G-chart and his G-box tuned to the station showing pulse blips from the purple grid system. As the lead pilot of Squadron Number 1 flies northwest about 100 feet to the left of the sand vegetation beach line, the lead navigator sets his marker blip for the purple grid at 50.72. He then watches the live blip above the marker blip as it approaches alignment with the marker blip. When the left leading edges of the 2 blips are aligned, they have reached the bomb release point, and the first squadron drops its bomb load. Each squadron carries a table listing the bomb release point. The second squadron is following, and the navigator notes his release point is 50.70. Accordingly, the navigator sets his marker blip, and the second squadron drops its bomb load when he signals they have reached the release point. In a like manner, the remaining 10 squadrons follow the directions of the navigator when they reach the predetermined bomb release point indicated by the G-box. In this manner, a total of 2,592 100-pound bombs can be distributed in an area 6 miles long, 300 feet wide, or 218 acres. This amounts to a relatively equal spacing of 2,592 100-pound bombs in a critical German defensive area with a concentration of approximately 12 100-pound bombs per acre. An American football field is roughly 1 acre in size. Although a bombing attack of this nature would be devastating to defensive positions that are not heavily fortified, this plan of attack is far from complete. Since the attack is visual and carried out at an altitude of roughly 10,000 feet, we shall take advantage of the awesome firepower of the B-17 and use the attacking bombers in the duplicate role of gunships. This drawing, made in Germany, demonstrates the formidable firepower of the 50 caliber machine guns on the B-17 and the respect held by the Luftwaffe for this firepower. The B-17 normally had 10 50 caliber Browning machine guns that could fire downward at a cyclic rate of fire of 550 rounds per minute. These include 2 chin turret guns, 2 cheek guns, 2 ball turret guns, 2 tail guns, and 2 waist guns. The maximum range of the 50 caliber gun is 4.2 miles, and it is a powerful weapon. Of course, from an altitude of 10,000 feet and a range of about 2 miles, it is outside its most efficient range of about 1/4 mile. However, even at a distance of 2 miles, the bullet can cause serious bodily injury. The 50 caliber bullet is powerful. It has a maximum impact energy of 13,000 foot-pounds. This is about 4 times the impact energy of a standard shell in a deer rifle and almost 150 times the energy of a .22 long rifle bullet. Although energy would be lost at a range of 2 to 3 miles, sufficient energy remains to cause serious bodily injury to unprotected enemy troops. The effect of 720 machine guns firing at a rate of 550 rounds per minute would also have had a devastating psychological effect on German troops below. Only a blind, deaf, and dumb mute would stand in the open with thousands of bombs and bullets raining down from above. For German troops in the open, guarding the Omaha Beach line, there would be no place to hide. Without doubt, German gunners would be shooting at the attacking aircraft, but you can rest assured the American gunners would be quick to respond. They might have to lead 200 or 300 yards toward the tail of the plane, but the German gunners would be well sprayed with 50 caliber ammunition and quite possibly eliminated. Obviously, there would be losses on both sides. But that is the tragedy of war, and the odds are with the most powerful attacking force. Omaha Beach was about 6 miles long. Since B-17s normally flew at about 180 miles per hour, or 3 miles per minute, it would take 2 minutes to fly the length of the beach. Of course, the flyers could spot the position of the landing craft with the friendly troops below and would always concentrate their machine gun fire well away from friendly forces. This continuous firepower would keep enemy troops pinned down and away from established defensive positions. Although the 8th Air Force rarely made a 360-degree turn over a target area, this plan of attack calls for a 360. All 12 squadrons would circle back and make a second and third gunship attack on the vegetation green line. This maneuver would place the 12 squadrons of bombers over the Omaha Beach in range of the green vegetation line for approximately 10 minutes. Gunners would reload from spare boxes of ammunition and maintain their devastating fire upon the targeted area. Assuming a cyclic rate of fire of 550 rounds per minute, these 720 machine guns could pour almost 400,000 rounds of 50 caliber bullets into the 218 acres of the Green Line. A football field is approximately 1 acre in size. At this rate, each acre would be struck by roughly 1,800 rounds of 50 caliber ammunition. This firepower, coupled with 12 100-pound bombs per acre dropped on the Green Line, would have devastated the German line of defense on Omaha Beach. Of course, When the first landing craft touched the beach, all aircraft would cease firing and return to their bases. In closing, I look back at our losses on Omaha Beach with sadness. It could have been, should have been, so different. We had the aircraft, we had the firepower, and we had young men trained to use this new technical equipment such as the G-Box. They soaked up the technology with ease. They loved it and were desperately eager to support our troops. But we seemed to lack leaders who were fully aware of the potential of the new technology and the capabilities of these young, dedicated flyers. Some of these leaders graduated from West Point and flight school, but they seemed to know very little about G navigation and H2X radar. I knew some of these men. I flew with them in the lead Pathfinder plane and was exposed to their lack of knowledge concerning G and H2X radar. Tragically, the price for this deficiency was paid by the 3,881 men who fell that day on bloody Omaha Beach. We have seen the same nameless soldier fall 100 times in actual combat movies of the invasion. That tragic scene is still painful to me. I only wish I could have done more to help my comrades in arms, the brave men who attacked and died on Omaha Beach.